For me, color management is the single most important part of my workflow. It used to be very difficult, and trying to follow how to get everything properly color managed was a real challenge. But today with X-Rite, I find the solutions much easier and the interface much more simple. Using my i1, I calibrate my monitors approximately every 2 weeks. I like to be assured that the color I'm seeing on my monitor is most accurately represented on my output print. I've been working with i1 color solutions basically since I started in digital. I use this device to basically calibrate my monitor, create my ICC profiles for my printer, and I also calibrate my projector with it. With my workshops, the great thing about knowing my monitor is properly calibrated and I have perfect profiles that I've built assures me the time that I need to work with my students. I have to print a lot of pictures with my students in a very short period of time, and I want all of them to come out right the first time. The images that I'm looking at on the monitors after they've been calibrated look exactly like the prints. But the students have to say, as they say, this is amazing. He said, that's a great monitor. Well, it is a great monitor. But why is it a great monitor? Because the color has been properly calibrated. My career basically took off in the early 80s when I was assigned a movie, Tootsie. I did Tootsie, Big Chill, Scarface in the early 80s, and those movies helped launch my career. And from that point on, I stayed pretty busy for a long time, worked almost 40 years in the movie business, and at this stage of my life at 60, I decided it's time to start living, and also time to start giving back for what I've gotten so much out of. I spend a great deal of my time up in my Northern California home. I spend time with my passions like making wine, teaching workshops. Finding a home outside of Los Angeles and outside of the craziness of the motion picture industry brought me much more in touch with myself. There's a handful of images that stand out through the course of my career, starting with basically my classic portraits, some of my more iconic images such as Leonardo DiCaprio, Betty Davis, Sophia Loren. One of my really early iconic images, which I didn't realize would become such until much later in my career, was an ad that I shot with Andy Warhol for LA iWorks. That became one of the pictures that has stuck with me throughout my career and become one of my more iconic images. Most of my shoots start with a general idea, a theme. I have a focus of what I'm going to do, but just like in digital, that focus is general, global. It doesn't become local until I really see what it is within that person, that individual, that sparks my interest, and that's what I will tend to focus in on. Decisive moments come in my pictures when I see something that gets me going, and that moment I'll embellish with maybe 200 captures. All of a sudden I'm moving a person around, I'm trying to shoot something, and something just happens. It's all of a sudden at the right angle, the right approach, the person's relaxed, the light is perfect, and then I will just have them hold that, and I'll shoot a lot until I find that one frame that makes the difference. When I'm shooting and I know that the ultimate capture will be black and white, I tend to light much more contrasty. I will create a greater dynamic range between my highlights and my shadows. It's exactly the inverse if you're shooting color. I tend to light more gently, smoother transitions, but I know at the end of the day, if I'm going to end up with a black and white capture, I have to have a strong relationship between my highlights and my shadows. With digital, I only capture in RAW. I want to have a file that I have total control over. Photographing people not only in the studio but in natural light situations means that I need to be able to control the color and the final output from my imagery. Knowing that I have a properly calibrated monitor and a good ICC profile assures me that the final print will be exactly what I see on the screen. Although generic canned profiles offer a good starting point, building my own custom ICC profiles assures me that the final vision of a fine art digital print will be my own. When I first started building my profiles with the i1 color solutions, I did them all by hand. I built my profiles by hand, but now I go to a fully automated process with the I/O. I like to scan larger targets, so that works better for me. Color management for me was one of the most difficult subjects to comprehend, but with i1 color solutions, I'm able to do this with a much easier approach to the final solution. Today, the user interface with i1 color solutions makes it very easy to create a profile. Working with my custom-built ICC profiles and the new HDR inks on the Epson printers gives me the best possible results with my toned black and white prints.